So, when we speak about meditation, there are two types of meditation. The one that focus on calm abiding, so settling the mind, making the mind calm and peaceful and concentrated. So one experiences inner peace, and then this inner peace turns into inner bliss, inner joy. So the natural state of the mind, when it's left on its own, when it's not agitated by thoughts and emotion and mental image, the mind is like a sky without any clouds, or like the surface of a pond without any ripples. And when the mind is calm, there's an increase in intelligence. The mind is not agitated all the time, so the mind is calm and clear. Then whatever thoughts or stream of thoughts or things you want to inquire and understand, because you start from that peace, that inner stability. So whatever you inquire, whatever you want to understand, or whatever you want to experience, you go much deeper in that experience because you start from this calm state of mind. So in general, in the world, because of our life being so hectic, and doing so many things in a day, for us, when we sit down, we have all these thoughts about what we did, what we're going to do after. And even if we try not to think about the past or the future, our mind is quite agitated because of the habit of following thoughts and so forth. Yet gradually, if one makes if one has some daily sitting practice, then gradually the mind calms down. So how much you're able to tame your agitated mind, it depends very much on one's ethic, one's lifestyle. So one's ethic, one's lifestyle, is the foundation for developing calm abiding. So at the beginning of one's spiritual journey, one pays attention to one's ethic, one's lifestyle, how we live, what kind of thought we cultivate, what kind of emotion, what kind of behavior we're engaging. So we become aware of it and we try to reduce gradually the ones that are harmful to our spiritual development and harmful for our inner peace. And we cultivate these thoughts and emotion and behavior that are harmonious with our inner development. So ethic is important for having a content mind in this life. It's the foundation for having a good rebirth, next life. And even on higher paths like the Bodhisattva path, one of the 6 things that he tries to perfect is his or her ethic. So at the beginning, one becomes aware of quite one's gross misbehavior and one's gross positive thought. And then gradually one becomes more and more aware of smaller mistakes and smaller qualities that one can develop. So in order to be able to work on one's ethic, first we have to be aware of it. You see, so we need to be mindful of what we think, mindful of what we say, mindful of what we do. So that mindfulness is also developed by developing calm abiding. So by being mindful of your breath or mindful of any object you like to focus on, by training in calm abiding, you also train in developing mindfulness. So you become more aware of what's going on in you. And the other quality you develop by meditating on calm abiding is introspection. So you look inside whether you actually focus on the object that you decided or not. See, let's say you want to focus on the breath and you get distracted by a thought. So what makes you aware that you are distracted is this mental faculty that we call introspection or vigilance. So or you're aware that you're not focusing on the breath anymore, and you bring the mind back onto the breath. So same thing in daily life. So you're mindful of your ethic, and you have this introspection to check whether, you follow your ideal of living an ethical life or not. So ethic helps you development of calm abiding, and calm abiding helps you in your development of ethic. So when one tries to calm down one's mind, usually the easiest object is to observe the breath, because we don't need to look for the breath, it's always there. So we can easily find the breath and focus on it. And its movement, going in, going out, is quite peaceful. It's like the wave, dying on the shore and then withdrawing, coming, going. So it has this kind of peaceful movement. Now, when one meditates, if one can, best is to try to have the back straight, to be naturally with the back straight. Because then the breathing is natural and the lungs are open, and one can then inhale also with the lower path of the lungs. You see, the lungs fill with air, and the diaphragm goes out, and the belly comes out. Right. So many people, sometimes they breathe only with the upper part of their lungs, or the upper and the middle. But you have to be aware that you have the upper, middle, and lower part of your lungs. So you try to breathe, fully upper, middle, and lower. And then gradually, as your mind calms down and your breathing become more natural, when you breathe in, when you totally breathe in, you stop. So you stop for about 5 seconds before exhaling. So in that gap between the inhale and the exhale, the mind is a little bit more subtle. And before it becomes uncomfortable, you exhale naturally. So inhale, hold the breath a little bit, and then exhale. So while you do that, you notice that, you have thoughts and images and things that arise within your mind. So even though your aim is to focus on the breath, in the background you're aware that there's these thoughts and this energy moving within your mind. So if you look what is the mind, what is that mind? So it's like a space, it's something immaterial in which thought, image, emotion arise and pass. So these thoughts, emotion, mental image, they are cognized. You're conscious of them, you're aware of them. So that's the knowing aspect of the mind. So when one speaks about the mind, the definition of the mind is that which is clear and knowing. So clear in the sense that it's a space, and that space is clear that any thought, any emotion, any mental image can arise and be cognized. And then when one meditates, one neither puts too much effort, one shouldn't squeeze oneself, so that there's no tension accumulating in your body while you meditate. You simply rest the mind on the movement of the breath. You don't strain yourself. Because if you put too much effort, it becomes tiring, you get exhausted, and then you get tired. And also, you don't go to the other extreme where you completely give up and you follow whatever stream of thought arise in your head. Usually, if you focus more, when you focus on the breath, you focus more in your abdomen area of your breathing, it's more grounding. You're less distracted by thoughts. Why? Because the thoughts tend to be somewhere in our head. So if you focus on the breath, let's say at the nostril or the upper part of your lung, the distance between your thought and where your mind is much shorter. So it's easier to get distracted. Whereas if you focus on the lower part of your lungs or in the belly, the distance is bigger from your head, from your thoughts. And also because it's a lower part of your body, it's kind of grounding you. You're more, your body is more settled on your cushion or on your seat. And then once you're able to establish a fairly good continuity of your mind, not losing your object of the breath, there's a new skill you try to become aware of. So you should hold the breath with your mind, neither too intensely nor too loosely. So in order to find this middle way, you have sometimes to hold it too tightly and sometimes too loosely, and then gradually you find the middle way. Like when you try to tune a string instrument. So by going from one side to the other, gradually you find the right pitch in the middle. So if you focus too tensely on your breath, it creates tension in your body and in your mind. And if you're too loose, the mind becomes dull. The mind turns towards sleepiness. And if one is not successful, it's still good meditation in a sense. You become aware of what preoccupies you. You see what's happening in your life, what's happening in your mind, what worries you, what prevents you from being peaceful and calm. And sometimes by simply watching your problem, you find solution, because you sit calmly and you observe. That observing of your thoughts and your problem, your issues, the fact of observing with the mind, somehow there's a wisdom there. You are not caught up in your problem. You are not the thought, the thinker mind. There's a gap. So you're able to watch your thinking mind from behind. So it's almost like you can split your mind into two. You have the mind with the problem, the worries, the things to resolve, the things to do. And then you have a witness behind, a neutral, calm witness that observes the thinking mind. And that witness has some kind of wisdom because of the distance between the problem and the observer of the problem. So sometimes sitting like that in meditation and a problem comes up in your mind, actually you find solution that in your everyday life you don't find, because you have access to another part of your mind that is wiser, that is not so involved into the problem. I think there's a Western expression: if you have a problem, something to resolve, just sit with it. Also, if you have important decision to make, to go in this meditative state and bring up the issues, and then somehow, because you have this inner wisdom witness watching, the the ego is not there. The ego with its hope and fear is not there, so the wisdom mind. So often the decision you make are wiser when you take them from this inner peace. And also, if you follow that, then you have, down the line, you have less regret, or you still feel that you made the right decision because you did it, you took the decision from this inner peace, this inner wisdom. And like with everything in life, it becomes easier to practice. The more you do something, the easier it becomes. All right, take a break. You need to stretch, stand up. I would like to make you aware of one thing. Look at any object in front of you, maybe the carpet or a seat or anything. So your eye consciousness sees the present of the object, right? Your eye consciousness cannot see the past of the object or cannot, how to say, imagine the future of the object, right? So the eye consciousness only see, touch, what's there, the present, okay? So when you want to infer but that object hasn't been there all the time, right? So that object has a past. So even though you cannot see it with your eye consciousness, that object arose due to cause and condition. And in order to reflect on this cause and condition, you have to use your mental consciousness. Your eye consciousness cannot see the past, right? The eye consciousness cannot imagine the future. So it's the mental consciousness that gets involved. So you have to make a distinction between the eye consciousness and the mental consciousness. So when you start meditating, you realize that your eye consciousnesses or your sense consciousness are quite limited of what kind of information they can give you, you know. So when one meditates, let's say, on emptiness, when one meditates on love and compassion, when one meditates on ethic, all this is done with the mental consciousness, not with the sense consciousness. So if you look at your body now, with your eyes or with your uh, sensation, you observe the body right now, right? But this body doesn't exist. Yes, that's the present of the body, but the body has a past. The body hasn't always been here at that age, at this stage. Right? So there was a body yesterday, there was a body, the same continuity of the body last year, 10 years ago, and so on. So looking back, we can infer that we were a child and a baby, and we came out of our mother's womb, and we lived in our mother's womb for a while. And if one wants to go more back, one can go to the time of conception when the sperm and ovum came together, and then the consciousness entered there, right? There's an interesting meditation in Shantideva about developing bodhicitta. Now I make a little sidetrack of what I was going on, but an interesting observation. So the sperm and ovum came from our parents, so they're not our own, right? So the sperm and ovum of our parent come together, they create the embryo. So that body actually is the body of our parent, right? So due to habit, something that came from someone else, we call it mine, you know? So I say my body, but actually this body came from our parents. So due to habit, this body that came from our parent, we call it mine. So Shantideva says same thing. We can train our mind to look at other people's body as mine. You know, it's just a habit that we have taken this body that came from our parent, we call it mine. So due to training, we can also look at other people's body, other people's life as mine. And like that, gradually change from this, how to say, this over concern about me, my body. You know, we can change that. Due to habit, we can train our mind to care more for other than for ourselves. So this caring of ourselves is just a habit that we have developed. So it's an interesting stream of thought in Shantideva's 8th chapter on the Bodhicharyavatara. And at the beginning, you know, when you think about it, oh, of course, this is my body, it's not my parents' body, it's me, you know, it's my body. But then when you go back at the time of conception and you think about where did the body come from? You know, this body wasn't mine, you know. At that time of conception, it was our parents' sperm and ovum coming together, and then the consciousness entering that thing that wasn't his, and then gradually he made it his own, he identified with that. So in the same way, we can train our mind to look at other people as ourselves, as precious, as important. It's just as we have familiarized ourselves with thinking we are the most important. In the same way, we can train our mind to see others as more important. It's just a matter of training our mind, of familiarizing. So our consciousness came together with the sperm and ovum of our parents, but the consciousness existed before that. So we were in that state in between two lives, in the bardo, what called the bardo. And we came into the bardo from leaving the body of our previous lives. So somewhere we died, you know, our consciousness left the body and was in between with a dreamlike body, subtle energy form that can travel at the speed of thoughts, that is not impeded by matter, can pass through matter. So wherever that subtle body mind or our self-aware, whatever thought you have, you experience that thought. Whatever place you think of, you are that place. So the bardo being travels at the speed of thought. If you think of somebody, you're close to that person, and so on. So that, intermediate state being has extrasensory faculties, a certain level of clairvoyance, certain level of seeing far and traveling very fast at the speed of thought. And then due to certain conditions, we are attracted to the parents of this life. So before this life, we were in another body somewhere else. And we had friends, we had partner, we had children, we had a life, we had projects and that life too, if you stream back to it, that grown-up person was also a child and came also from a mother's womb, and also at the time of conception came together with the sperm of ovum of its parents, and before that he was in an intermediate state in the bardo of a previous life. And that previous life too, we were a living being with hopes and fear and projects and friends and maybe enemies. Yeah, we had a life. And before that too, another one. And like that, we had hundreds and millions and billions of lives. And in each life, we were like in this life, that's my only reality. Like in this life, the situation of the world, my family situation, my job, my means of making a living. So in each life, we were in a situation similar. And now we have forgotten all these previous lives. But someone which has a greater clarity of mind than us can remember, can see. For example, yesterday, His Holiness Dalai Lama said he remembers clearly having been the king Rizong Detsen in Tibet at the 7th century. So he remembers having been that king. So because his mind is so clear, so he can remember, can see. We, at our level, we can only infer with our mind and say, well, this body and mind came from somewhere. It came from the previous moment. And like that, you can stream back with your imagination that each moment came from the previous moment. And like that. So in this life, we have certain characteristic, our body has a certain level of health. We have some kind of a genetic makeup that makes us more prone to sickness or not. We have certain mental facilities, For us, it's easier to do music, or we have some artistic band, or we're some kind of good with numbers, or some people are naturally kind-hearted, others are more selfish. So we came into this life with certain kind of imprint from previous lives, certain habits that if you observe your life, how you grew up, as a child, if you have brothers and sisters, you see how even though you have the same parents, how different you were. So where does that difference come from? So by seeing your personality, what you like, what you dislike from childhood, this, you can infer what kind of past life you had, what kind of persona you were before. So some people are very short-tempered from childhood, Some people like to kill bugs, insects and things, butterflies and things. Some people have no problem to put a worm on a hook, and put it and then fishing. And for some other children, that's impossible for them to do. So most of us had quite a good previous lives because to be born as human, especially to meet a spiritual tradition like we have, these are the result of certain causes. So in our past life, we have had to have a certain kind of ethical lifestyle. And we have had to have a certain level of generosity, of giving, And on top of that, we have had to have a certain level of spiritual aspiration. So our past life was quite good. The one just before this one must have been quite good. Because the cause of this result that we experience now, its cause is ethic, generosity, and spiritual aspiration. So we have had to cultivate those in our life just before. And now if we look forward, today's body would turn into tomorrow's body. Today's mind would turn into tomorrow's mind. So whether we like it or not, tomorrow will come. Next year will come. We cannot stop time. You cannot say, oh, I don't want tomorrow to come. I don't want, I don't want 10 years to come. You have no choice. No, tomorrow's gonna come. And this body is going to grow older and older and older. And it will reach a point where it will not be able to sustain our consciousness anymore. The body will die and our consciousness will leave this body. It's a very important meditation. You see, we know it intellectually. We all know we're going to die, you know, but we don't know it from our guts. You have to do quite a lot of meditation to be able to see it, you know, that one day it's gonna end. And I have no choice, I cannot prevent it. I would like to live on and on and on in this body, in this world, but I cannot. So that insight is very profound, to realize that you're going to die. Not intellectually, but with your guts, you know, very deeply. You realize that one day all this is gonna end. And you have no choice about it. So the place where you live, the people you know, the things you do, all this is gonna end forever. You cannot take anything of this life with you. The only thing that comes with us are the imprints of our good and negative actions, the imprints of our good heart, the imprints of our anger if we're short-tempered. So the quality of our mind, that because the mind goes on, so the quality of your mind comes with you when you pass away. So how much inner peace you have developed, how much loving kindness you have developed, how much you understand the reality of who you are. So that's the only thing that goes on, is your mind, with its imprint and habits. So if we want to have another good life after, again, the cause is to live with an ethical life in this life and being generous, and again cultivate spiritual aspiration. So then at least we create the cause for another good life after this one. So the more you think about having to die one day and that you cannot take anything from this life with you, the more you, how to say, the more you see that this life is going to end and there will be an after that. So the more in your mind the awareness of death is strong, the less you are attached to things of this life. So the more you think that death is something vague and it will come very long time in the future, the more you attach for things of this life. So the Buddha said, you see, the meditation on the awareness of death, he said it like that. Among all the footprints, that of the elephant is the biggest. And among all the meditation of the impermanence and death has the greatest impact for our spiritual development. So to realize that this life is going to end, that my life, that I, all my reality will disappear. My friends, family, my project, my possession, all has to be left behind. So that insight has the greatest impact on one's spiritual development. Because you realize all these things of this life I'm so attached to, when I'm dying, is useless. I have to leave behind. And the more attached I will be to these people and these objects, the more I will suffer when I die. And then when that is clear, where you really get to that point of realizing what death is, that nothing of this life you can take with you. You just have to go on, just your mind. So then the quality of your mind, the quality of what's going on becomes more important to you than things from this life. Because that's what will remain, is your mind, you with your thought, your emotion, the quality of your mind. So if your mind is something pleasant to live with, if you're cozy with your thoughts, with your emotion, and when you die, you go on with that. But if your mind is berserk, with a lot of craziness happening, well, that's the type of mind that's going on, that's, you will go on with that. So that insight leads you to really, wow, it's really important to to tame my mind, to gently befriend my mind and make my mind better, more wholesome, more peaceful, more joyous, more loving, kinder. And then for those which are, how to say, I think it's a little bit more difficult or uh, to bring that awareness even stronger. You think about, yes, but I think I'm gonna die old, when I'm 100 or 90. But there's no guarantee that we're going to grow old, right? Death can sadly in our world happen any time, any moment. We can have a car accident, we can have a stroke, we can get an illness, or something can happen and we die. This body is not like I don't know, a tank, something very strong. This body is very fragile, actually. You just exhale and you don't inhale again and you're dead. So that even makes you, the previous insight that you're going to die makes it even stronger because that can happen, pretty soon. We always think about it's going to happen in 10, 20 years. But in reality, there's no guarantee at all. Many healthy people, they went to bed and they didn't wake up in the morning. They didn't have any ailment, that one could see. And we hear that all the time around us in our life, right? So we see it in others, but we don't then think, oh, this could happen to me. So the more you're aware that you can die, and you can die at any time, the more serious your spiritual practice becomes. Because you realize that's the only thing that really matters. When I die, only my mind comes with me. So this is really a very profound insight. Myself, I had this insight when I was 6 years old. So when I was 6 years old, I went to the funeral of my grandmother. And so we were in the church and there was the coffin open. And there was my grandmother in the coffin. So that was the first time I realized that I'm going to die one day. Because before that, I never thought I would die. As a child growing up, I never thought, I wasn't, I don't know, I didn't see anybody dead first. And then I never thought I'm going to die, But when I saw my grandmother in this coffin, it sinked in, oh, one day I'm going to die too. And it had a quite a profound shock. I remember, it's really, wow, I'm going to die. This is not forever. It was quite a profound experience. And then my uncle, My godfather had a small sailing boat in the Zurich Lake in Switzerland. And on the Zurich Lake, there's a few islands. And on one island, I don't know whether it was a monastery before or what, there's a pile of head skulls, there's a pile of head skulls. And I was what, maybe 10 years old, things again, wow, all these people were alive and now they're only skulls, you know. Again, it was a really a deep shock, I'm gonna die. And then another thing, I think it was in one movie I saw that. I don't know, it was kind of science fiction or I don't know what. Anyway, there was an underground cave and there were candle burnings, maybe 100 candle burning. And the thing was, the candle symbolized or was a representative of a human being living, and the work, and that was the lifespan of a living being. So each time a candle died, somebody died above, on earth. And again, it was quite an impactful image, you know. Oh, we have a certain lifespan, and when that lifespan ends, you die. You know? So I think each one of you, if you look at your life, when did you become aware that one day you're gonna die? Each one of us, a certain moment, as a child, you grew up, suddenly you realize this is not forever. You know, some, each one of us, we are on trigger. Life has brought us some trigger to aware of those things. So I don't know. The awareness of death makes that life is actually something serious. How to say, because we forget that we're going to die, we live like small children on a playground, playing, going through our life, completely forgetting that we're just passing through and that we're going to die. So we plan holidays, we plan picnics, we go there, and, we do all these casual leisure things as if we live forever. So, for example, myself, I'm now 65, but I wouldn't dare go on holiday. It would be a huge waste of time. People invite me, oh, why don't you come to this island? And I have a house there. I have no interest at all. And I try to be polite, I have to find an excuse, not to make them, but really, life is really short, and there's so much to accomplish before. Once you have those spiritual tools and you see that you could reach liberation or enlightenment or at least becoming close to it, each moment, each day is so precious, you don't want to waste your time, So it says in the teaching, for a childish being, for thinking about death makes them very uncomfortable. They don't like to think about death. It makes them depressed. But for actually someone which has a spiritual practice, thinking about death is fantastic. It really, how to say, make your mind sharper. It makes you more focused. It makes you more disciplined because it's not gonna last. So let's use this precious life to its fullest potential. So it says in the teaching that a person that has lived a wholesome life, he hasn't got any spiritual achievement at the time of death, but because he has lived a wholesome life, taken care of his mind and being kind and generous and helping others. When one speaks about generosity, generosity is not just material thing. In Buddhism, when one speaks about generosity, uh, generosity has four kinds, right? So one is material, sharing your material thing. The other generosity is giving of love, being kind to others, caring for them. And then the other one is the gift of protection. So helping people which are sick, which are dying, helping children, helping people cross the road, or, protecting them from harm, protecting others from harm. Right? That's a form of generosity. And the fourth type of generosity is help them uh, psychologically or spiritually, induce other people to become a good person. So these are the four types of gift that one can offer to others. So generosity is not just material, right? So I think the gift of loving kindness, I think is very, very precious. If you're kind-hearted, um, and you say something to someone, or you offer a smile, from your heart, it makes people happy. You know, it yeah. So it's a gift. you know. So having an ethical life, usually ethic or karma, is one of the most subtle topic. Right? Only a Buddha can see why, what produced that specific effect, what was the real cause, or if you do something, what will be the outcome, in next life or in a million life. So only a person that has complete clairvoyance can really see karma, right? So we at our level, we can only learn the general rules, so that we can live our life by. So what it comes down to, what is non-virtuous is whatever produces harm to other, whatever harms other, right? And whatever is virtuous is whatever doesn't harm others. So virtuous, you don't necessarily need to do anything. You just need to refrain from harming. So refraining from harming is virtuous by itself. So sometimes we think virtuous, you have to do something good. No, not necessarily. That also is virtuous, but just refraining from harming is already virtuous. And then one important factor, in karma or in ethics is our motivation, why we do something, right? So we have to check, why do I am with that person? Why, why do I do this and that? And then if one does something negative, an important factor is regret. So if you regret something, having done something, you have out of control, you say something, then if you generate regret in your mind after, so the regret actually undermines really a lot the heaviness of your negative action. So the stronger you regret, the less heavy your negative action is. And if you do something good and then after you generate regret, so that also undermines the good things you have done, right? So you shouldn't regret, the good things you do. And if you rejoice in the good things you have done, it increase the impact. Right? So the more you rejoice and you do, you want to help your grandmother, she's, not doing well. So you spend the afternoon with her, cheer her up and things, and at the you come home at the you regret, oh, actually it wasn't really helpful, I wasn't doing that. I should have done something else instead. So that undermines that positive action. Whereas if you come home and say, oh well, I spend the afternoon with grandma, I was able to help her a little bit. Yeah, I'm happy. So that's good. It improves, how to say, it increased the weight of that positive action. And also, if you do something negative, you criticize somebody and, you hurt somebody. And at the end you say, oh, great, that also is not so good because it increases that negativity. But if after you regret, oh, I said something harmful to that person. Oh, I shouldn't, I'm sorry, you don't need to say you can say to the person, but also in your mind, I'm sorry, I shouldn't speak like that. And I will try to refrain myself in the future like that. So karma is kind of mental energy that you can actually control, when it depends on your motivation, it depends on the action, and then it depends on how much you rejoice or, or regret at the end. Because, we all ordinary being, we have our mental affliction, we have our qualities, we have our mistakes. So we are not perfect, things happen, right? But by controlling your mind, you can take care of it. And I think many centers, I think here probably too, there's the New Year Vajasattva practice. Do you do that here? I don't know. In this center, you do? Dodrika, do you do? Yeah. So at the end of the year, some center organize a little retreat, 1 or 2, 3 days, where you actually remember all the actions of this life, and you purify all the negative action done in this life, So you start the year with a new, clean state. I think it's a kind of nice. Yeah, I think it's good for centers to do that. Okay, let's make a break. Huh? Maybe 15 minutes free tea break. Um, before we make question answer, I want just to share one thought that the great yogi Milarepa, these are, I think you know the story of Milarepa, most of you, right? So he was he killed quite maybe 30 human beings, and maybe a few hundred sheep, in the early part of his life. And then he had much regret and met his teacher, Marpa, and did a lot of purification practice by serving his guru, building towers for his guru, things like that, and houses, and then having to put the stone back where he found them. And then he became this hermit in Tibet. And while, in his retreat, he made this observation. If the morning I forget that I'm going to die, and if I forget this awareness that one day I'm going to die, and I don't know what's going to happen, I waste my morning. And if at lunch I forget that I could die, I tend to waste my afternoon. And in the evening, I forget that I could die, that death can come. I waste my night. And actually, it's a very, I live mostly in retreat, and I see how true it is. You can be in the retreat, not having much distraction, but you can still waste a lot of time doing nothing. So I realized how powerful that statement was, that really that awareness of death is really a big kick in your butt, so to speak spiritually, to push you, is, don't be, uh, don't waste your time too much. Okay, that was my observation. So what do you think from your experience? We all, don't think, you don't have any experience. You all have experience. You all lived, you all have experience. You went through life, so you also experience when did you, became aware of your mortality and, how does that impact your everyday life? How the fact to know that you're going to die, how does that impact your life? So you see, for some people which doesn't have any spiritual practice, any spiritual method, thinking about death is something uncomfortable because it doesn't know what to do with that insight, right? But for somebody that has a spiritual practice and he, um, and he's, how to say, has all these tools to use to develop his mind. So for him, the more he think about death, the better it is. And the more it makes him assiduous in his practice. So it's the same awareness of death, but for one it turns into something incredibly positive, and for another person it becomes something negative, depressing. So what do you think from your experience? Share me your experience. You sit all here and I sit there. I want to hear your experience. Yes. Aha, microphone. Yeah.
You can say your name. It's Paula. We were just talking on break about some of us have been practicing death cleaning. In other words, you go around your house and you look around and say, what is it I don't need with all these things? And we've been doing it for some time. And it's kind of like when you go camping, you only have so much stuff. And even when we were doing that, I was looking around the house going, all the stuff I've been downsizing for years, but I still have too much stuff. And we were talking, as I said, it's called Death Cleaning. It was a book many years ago. And then you take all those things that are still usable and you're kind of like a spiritual Santa. You go around and donate it to all these charities so someone else can use it. And so I just realized how much more stuff I don't need. And I'm really motivated to go home after this and really, I don't need all this. How much do you need? Even books, clothing, whatever. So we were talking about that.
Yes, good, yeah. And also, I have a friend, he lived in France, and he moved to Thailand. So he had his own house in France. So he sold his house. And because he moved to Thailand, he could only take 2 suitcases with him, So he had to downsize all his possessions to 2 suitcases, right? And now he lives in Thailand in a rented house. And he's a yogi, practitioner, quite advanced. And he said how liberating it was for him to get rid of his house and all his possessions. He feels much freer, much happier, So he benefited a lot. He told me, from that downsizing. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Terry. I have 3 quick points. One is when I was packing for this trip. When I was packing for this trip, I don't live here, so I had to drive down. I managed to get it all into one little carry-on, and I was kind of proud of myself. But then my mind went to you, Venerable Rene, and I thought, I would love to see what he travels with, just because it goes back to what this woman was saying. It's a burden, and we get distracted with it, and how much time in my life I spend taking care of my stuff. And so, anyways, you inspired me and continue to inspire me to keep examining that. And also on the drive down, we were talking about parents who are elderly and literally facing death. The doctor said, you may not recover from this. And then just nudging a little bit, it's like, well, have you prepared for death? It's like, don't talk to me about death. And it creates fear in a husband and a wife. She won't do anything because she's scared it's going to upset him, and he won't do anything because it's going to upset. And you know what? They're both going to die, And so it's something that's again, it's very freeing. And the third thing that's related to this is I have a good spiritual friend who I admire, and he does a meditation. Part of his morning practice is part of a death meditation. And some of that's just really powerful words for me, which is, he says, I'm going to die with dirty laundry. We like to think, and I do this every day. It's like, oh, I have to clean this up and have to get this all organized because, and it's like, I could die sitting here in this chair. So I think those are really, I found them to be really powerful practices that I need to keep working on.
Thank you.
And then Venerable Rene, I think we'll take one question from online
Okay.
For Shaka. Jennifer, would you please like to unmute?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, so I had a question from earlier. So you said that we don't take anything with us when we die, but we take our mind. So that made me think, do we take our memories, or do we leave those behind?
I think we take our memory into the bardo, but then when we take rebirth, the trauma of going from being in the bardo like an adult and then going to this sperm and ovum and the trauma of being 9 months in the mother's womb, and then the pain of taking rebirth in a new life. So that erases most of our memory from previous lives. So I think only quite advanced people can keep the memory of previous lives.
Okay, so that's the goal then.
Certain children can remember. Certain children have a certain memory, and then by the age 4, 5, 6, it starts fading away. Because the sensory input, this experience of this life becomes so strong that the memory from previous life can disappear. Yeah.
Thank you, Venerable. Shanka has a question.
Well, he asked for, I don't have a question. He asked for our experiences. So, the last time I was doing my Lamrim meditation, a month-long meditation, and I focused only on death and rebirth for the month. And so two things happened, which was interesting. So one is, so you think about what is the fear, so Rinpoche used to talk about when everyone has this fear that arises at the time of death, right? So what I realized was the great fear I have is losing my memory. Mm-hmm. It's not, I meditated on the body and so on, and I'm sure I have lots of fears when my time of death comes, but at least at the moment I can't seem to have those fears. But it was a big fear, like not having, like losing my memory, especially on the 8 stages of death, that's what I was, when I was meditating on it, that's what I discovered. The other thing that happened was, it greatly is a side effect, which I didn't learn until later, was a great amount of much more patience. Because I have this old dog, and you saw her, she requires a lot of work, But after that, I didn't used to get as impatient, that was that's one of the places I noticed it, is that, I was just much more kind to her. And just much more patient and not get annoyed, because she's peeing and, here and there and, like that. So.
And Venerable, I'm not sure this is appropriate. I'll just share an experience. Maybe it was 2 months ago. It's still within the 49 days. I received a call from my stepfather and from his caretaker. And it was in the middle of the workday, and I knew that he was slowly passing. I knew that it was there. But at that time, it was the call. And they said that, she said that your father's decided he doesn't want to live anymore. And at that time, for some reason, I just opened up, and I was able to express my gratitude and deep love. I couldn't stay on the phone very long, so I did that. But then, then I did some practice, and then a couple hours later, I was like, wait. Then that's when the attachment came came roaring back up, and I was like, I have to call him again. Did I do it okay? Did I say the right thing? But that was just a recent experience. Thank you.
Yeah, for the people left behind. This past year, I lost a few close friends, including my brother, and it's an accident, So it's that thing, that feeling, oh, I'm never going to see that person ever again. It's kind of interesting experience. Oh, that person that was in my life is never going to be there anymore, It's quite an interesting feeling, when you feel that. Yes.
We have one more question.
Thank you, Charlotte. Do we die the way we live? Meaning that if you spend the last, if you become bitter and life makes you hard and you're not careful with your words, maybe you die of, choking to death, or if you never really had the ability to care for other people because of whatever you suffered as a child and you never got over it, and then you just keel over on the street in Manhattan. Like this, my experience is that people tend to die the way they live. Is there some sort of link to that?
Yes, but it's not 100%, right? Because we have many different type of imprint, and sometimes at the time of this, maybe something, even though you might, be mostly good or mostly bad, it's not 100% sure that you're going to die the way you lived, There's there's a greater chance, but it's not 100% sure. You know, I think some people at the end of their life suddenly have big regret for the negative things they've done, you know, to their children or to their partner or to other, you know. Suddenly they have some kind of awareness and they have deep regret, you know, and they try, and then they die peacefully, you know. And then, yeah, and then some people which have most life been good, but they hold a grudge or something, and at the time of death, they remember something, a bad event of their life, and then, you know, they die unhappy. So, yeah, I think mostly yes, but not necessarily, yeah.
Checking if there are any other more. Body.
Hi, Bada here. My question is, I can see how it's possible to live in both extremes where you are very, very afraid of death, thinking about it constantly, and then the other side where you completely don't think about it at all until maybe something happens and then you forget again. So what does the middle way look
like? I think the middle way is like we all are, mostly. You know, I think mostly that's how we are, right? We don't think about death all the time, and yeah, sometimes I think things trigger it, right? The news, you know, in the news you hear about death, about you know, about war, then you hear about friends dying, you know, so I think death is very much part of life, so you cannot completely avoid it, right? So I think we all, from time to time, think about it, but we don't think it willingly every day, you know, like it's a meditation, you know, part of our daily practice that comes for people which actually train in the Lamrim, you know, which try to get the Lamrim realization. So they go through all these different meditation every day, you know, so it's part of their training, right? So, but normally, you know, one doesn't do that.
Yeah, one more. Thank you. If it's appropriate, could you speak about karmic families and karmic relationships?
I didn't. Can you speak a bit louder?
Oh, sorry. If it's appropriate, could you speak further about karmic relationships and karmic families?
Karmic relationship and karmic families, that's it? I sometimes wonder, you know, I have 3 brothers and sisters, and we're so different, you know. So, but obviously we have certain karma to have the same parents, you know, to be born in those parents. But I wonder sometimes, you know, what the karmic connection, where were we, and what did we do together to create the cause to be born together with those parents? You see, at our level, we don't have the choice where we don't choose where we're going to be reborn. Our parents. This needs someone that there are beings, you know, like the Bodhisattva, like our teacher. So there are beings that are at the level where they can choose their parents, they can choose their brother, sister, and they come in order to help this and that person or those person. You know, but at our level, it's not really like that. No? But yet, everything, you know, we all in this room together, we have created certain karma at some point to meet, to be here together, right? But it's quite obscure, you know, what it is and where it was and, you know, how things happen. I think also, for example, if you get some spiritual interest, you know, I remember myself in my early 20s, I went to different ashram, different monastery, different groups. And a certain teacher, great teacher, but you didn't feel the people were your spiritual family. you know, you didn't feel any connection with the people there. And then other places, you know, or you feel at home, you know, you don't know these people, but somehow you're comfortable with them. So there's some kind of connections there, you know. So yeah, so we have, yeah, and sometimes you meet a person you never met before, and straight, you know, you know, you feel comfortable, you know, if you like having met that person long time ago, having spent some time together. And if we had clairvoyance, we might have been husband and wife, or have been kids or brother, sister, you know, but we cannot see. But we have this intuition, you know, or there's this recognition, you know. And sometimes opposite, you know, you meet a person first time, you cannot stand that person. And there's no reason why, you know, because you don't know the person, you know, but yet, you know, so where does that come from, right? So we have this intuition or these things, you know? But it's just vague, you know, because we don't have the clairvoyance to see how, why. You know? I think sometimes our teacher, for example, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you know, he meets somebody the first time and he says, oh, you know, oh yeah, yeah, we met before, you know, so some teachers sometimes they hint, you know, oh, we were the student before, or something, you know. It was like,
And we have one more question.
I wanted to share one thing. It's short. After our last meeting, I went home from Copan, and I had a wonderful insight that pertains to what you're saying. And that is that this is a long journey and many, many lifetimes. And I'm so fortunate, as many of us are, to be here. I've had such great teachers that we will meet again on the path. And so there's not too much I can do wrong if I just keep at it a little bit every day. And I'm not perfect. I'm just very human. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So that's why I think it's a good insight there. It's a topic we are not going to cover this weekend, is the relationship with spiritual teacher, you know, how to find spiritual teacher, and then the qualities that teacher must have, and the quality we as students should have, and how to keep that connection going in a wholesome way. Because you see, this is the only connection you have that goes from lifetime to lifetime, right? So, because of their clairvoyance, because of their they can hook us back, they can bring us back to them, you know. Whereas we are completely blind, we don't see much, you know, further than our nose. They can see and they can help us, you know. They can basically, when we die, when we're in the bardo, they can hook us back to where they live, you know, where they are. They can bring us back close to them, you know. And if one's heart connection is clean, then when we meet our teacher, we recognize, you know, we have this recognition, oh, that person, you know, something precious in my life. And because of the imprint of relying with him properly in previous life, again, we rely properly, we don't make any mistakes, you know, and so that makes our spiritual progress going easier and easier from lifetime to life. So our relationship with our spiritual teacher is something really, really precious, you know, and one has to really work hard to cultivate that relationship, you know, to keep it pure, you know, because that is really what will help us to grow from lifetime to lifetime, you know. So you see, if one's relationship with one's teacher goes wrong, then you die. Then you're born in a place where there's no spiritual teacher, right? So then what do? You know, then even though you have developed certain quality, you have certain quality because of your work you did in a previous life, but you're in an environment that is not conducive. So slowly let's say you surrounded with people with hatred or with wrong views and crazy, you know, then slowly they rub onto you, you know, and your mind starts degenerating and becoming like them. right? So all the work you did in previous life slowly degenerates, you know, and then you don't meet teacher again, and even you meet teacher, you make again the same mistake you did before. So your mind starts degenerating, you know. So that relationship with the spiritual teachers is really important. So, you know, to be careful about it, and to know that it's something very important. It's more important than the relationship you have with your parents, more important than the relationship you have with your partner, more important than the relationship you have with your children. It's really something very powerful. So one has to be really careful how one goes about it. So, you know, for example, I'm teaching here. I'm not your teacher, and I'm not your spiritual teacher. You know, I'm just a teacher. That relationship is from your side. You enter into that relationship in your mind. You know, you choose somebody as your spiritual teacher, and you decide from myself, I'm going to follow his or her advice. You know, so it's a commitment that you make in your own mind. And you can have one, you can have 10, you can have 100, it doesn't matter. But with each of the person you have decided, this is my spiritual teacher, you have to have this pure connection in your heart. And be careful, you know, the way you relate with him or her. It's not, that person is not your body. You know, that person is not is your friend, but a special friend. You know, so this one has to learn, you know, how to go about it, and it's really something very profound. And also in spiritual practice, you see, even whether you live close to that person or not, if that connection is, you can receive a lot of blessing and insight, even though you're not physically present, and even if that person has passed away. So that connection is not only related to this life. There's something good to learn about, but it's a difficult topic, and especially for us Western culture doesn't. We don't have any example like that in our Western culture of that type of relationship. There's something completely new, you know. Why do I speak about that? What did you, what did you say, Julie? Yes, 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 yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yes, we're on a journey that's gonna take many, many, many. But hopefully better. Okay, lunch break?
Yes,
Oh,
we have one more question,
okay.
but it's from Shale, and this will be our last question before lunch, everyone. Thank you so much. Shale asks, what can you say about if we don't have a teacher and don't have the chance to meet one? Are we unfortunate? Can we just take on a teacher who we have seen on YouTube?
So I cannot find any scriptural quotation because YouTube didn't exist before, you know, when the but yes, you know, so some people have Jesus as their guru, they never met Jesus, right? Some people have the Buddha as their guru, they never met the Buddha, the historical Buddha. You know, some people have Lama Tsongkhapa as their guru, they never met Lama Tsongkhapa. Right? So it doesn't necessarily need that you have met it physically in this life. Right? So yeah, you can have, you know, you see an inspiring teacher that speaks to your heart on YouTube, and you can practice from your heart to correctly follow that spiritual teacher, you know, and that the main practice is then to look at that person from the side of the qualities and not look the mistakes, you know, is try to always have a pure view of that teacher, you know, in your heart. And think about his quality and his kindness, you know, the benefit he has brought into your life by his teachings, like that. And then if you maintain that connection, even if you have never met physically, you know, that relationship would benefit you in this life. And then next life you might meet that teacher. Like that. Okay, so whatever positive energy we've generated this morning by coming here and reflecting on spiritual topic, so we have created certain virtues, certain positive karma. So this positive karma now we can dedicate or offer, to all our friends and parents that are sick or have mental problems. So may that positive energy help them and for ourselves, you see that our spiritual interest may, due to this merit, may our spiritual interest doesn't degenerate, and so that our spiritual interest and our spiritual practice continues to grow in this life and all future lives until we reach full omniscient enlightenment. And then may we continue to work for all living beings until the last sentient beings is freed from his or her suffering. So we'll never give up until all living beings have reached enlightenment. So this is our vow, our aspiration. And so may this merit continue to grow until all beings have reached enlightenment. So by offering it like that, this merit will not be destroyed by anger or by changing our mind. That positive energy will continue to grow, to multiply. Okay, bon appétit.
Thank you.